So Billy, Jake Vogel, kind of a local product. You guys haven't dug in on too many kids the last couple years, but what did you guys like about him?
Yeah, no, we're happy to be able to select Jake. He's a dynamic athlete. It's only 5'11", like 190 pounds, but it's a 70 runner with a big arm, and it's plus center field defense, and he's got power. He's just a really like physically gifted kid that missed some of last summer with a back injury, and that came out this fall and early spring and performed really well and kind of really shot up our board.
Where's his speed rank in the organization when he steps in, if he signs?
If it's not the top, it's top two or three. I mean, this is like running back sprinter speed, like strong, explosive, like powerful strides. Like he can really get after it. If it's not the top, it's top two or three.
Really good athlete. How do you guys assess him as a hitter?
We think he's a good hitter. I mean, he's got surprising power. Um, it's one of the things where we think we're going to even develop him more as a guy who can go to all fields. He's got really good timing. His hand's kind of like a hand flick to this finish that really like creates a lot of power for his size. We have a few cleanup issues with his load and path, and our player development guys are chomping at the bit to get a hold of him because they really think like the athlete, the hand-eye coordination, and just his ability to move his body so fast is gonna take off with some instruction.
Are you guys coming into this? Are you looking to bolster the system with pitching, or is that sort of just how it kind of happens? In particular, I guess college pitching.
Yeah, no, we're fired up. I mean, we just got a lot of velocity, a lot of pure stuff. It's big, it's right-handed. It was the strength of the draft, and we just took advantage of it. And Knack and Beeter, these guys are big mid-90s fastballs with breaking balls to go along with it. And Knack is like a outstanding strike thrower, and Beeter had a great year as his first time as a starting pitcher, and we were ecstatic to get both guys.
Is Beeter going to be a starting pitcher?
Yes, we like him to. We're gonna try to develop him as a starter. That's the current plan. He did it for 4 starts at Texas Tech, and it was, really he performed really well. And we think he kind of took to the new well from all of our intel research, and we're gonna try to go that direction with him.
Any of the 4 pitchers look like a reliever in the future?
Say that again. Sorry, Bill. Say that again.
Any of the 4 pitchers, do they look like they may find themselves in a bullpen someday?
Maybe. I mean, I think I think we're hopeful all 4 are going to start. Obviously, that's always a good insurance plan. I know Beater's probably the one that most people have doubt on, and we're very bullish on his starter chances. So I guess if you're going to had to pick one, it would be Beeter. With his breaking ball, which we thought was the best in the draft class, we would be happy if it ends up in the bullpen. We think it would be dominant there.
And Billy, you said coming into it, you were kind of curious how much stock teams would put in the shortened season this year versus kind of the track record. With those pitchers at the top of your draft in particular, is it fair to say there was a decent amount of stock in what they were able to show in this shortened time?
Yes. I mean, I guess when it's all said and done, we bought into these upticks and trends up, and there's 4 weeks of season, their performance, we kind of bought in on all these guys. So we think it's like real. We think it was going to last throughout the season. And in some ways it gave us a little bit of advantage where if other teams didn't and we did, we got what we thought were really good talent.
Taylor seems to have made a big jump offensively in those 4 weeks. Is the same thing apply to him?
A little bit. So, I mean, he has a little bit more of a background story to why we think he struggled a little bit more right-handed than left-handed, but he broke his hamate bone his freshman year at the end, and then tried to go play in the Cape Cod with it, and it just he was kind of playing hurt, and as you piece his performance and kind of track line together, it all made sense where the healthy version of Taylor is what we think what showed up this year.
The hamate bone in which hand?
That's a good question. I think it's his left hand. Let me double check that though for you.
You got a 50-50 chance, Billy.
Right? I can let me just make sure I don't give you wrong info. Right hand.
Thanks. See, you were wrong with the
I was
first guess.
wrong. See? That's why I always check myself.
Hey, Billy, I'm sure there was some trepidation going into a draft where you haven't seen players for more than 2 months. How did sort of the expectation of what you thought that would be like match the reality of it? Was it a detriment? Was it any disadvantage, any more or less?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know if it's because we started talking about the players 3 months ago and in some ways had more time at home to look at more video and peel through more information. But it actually felt fairly normal. It really did. Now, the limitation to 5 rounds was a little different. Just so many good players didn't get drafted, and then trying to figure out how this was all going to work within 5 rounds when we usually can spread out picks and money and scenarios over a much larger round base. Like that was weird.
Were any of these guys more active? Because you mentioned last night that Miller wasn't very active with maybe like uploading videos and being, that kind of thing. Were any of these guys pretty active in terms of uploading stuff and kind of showing you guys that they were, working and all that?
Beeter and Stone did a pretty good job. They had a few more videos for us to look at. Taylor as well. Vogel didn't do much, and Knack didn't do much. Part of I think Knack's issue, I think he's lives in a remote part of Tennessee and just didn't have access to facilities. So some of these guys were just limited to what they could do and just based on their current conditions.
Anything particular you saw in Knack I know it's a small sample, but he had 51 strikeouts and just 1 walk. Was he doing anything specifically different this year?
No, the funny thing is he's always been like an elite strike thrower, and he's a former position player that started pitching and for just naturally gifted at just throwing strikes. So we kind of identified that a little bit last year, and then as the fall kind of started to unwind, Marty Lamb kind of flagged him as a guy who's made a jump in velocity and stuff. And, we knew all right, now you have strikes, you have pitchability and stuff improving. And then all of a sudden he comes out early in the spring. It's the stuff not only improved, it improved by a large gap. So he went from a 90-mile-an-hour guy to a 95-mile-an-hour guy. Everything upticked. And then you match that with just the natural strike throwing ability. And he had a great year.
What do you think this next phase of player acquisition is going to be like, this $20,000 signings? Is it going to kind of wild? What is your guys' approach and what can give you the advantage in the situation?
Well, we're going to try to turn over every stone. I don't have a great feel for what the answer would be. I do think our track record of development and our success with later round picks is really going to help us when we go to sell our organization, because it really is a recruiting process at this point. So I would take our chances, against any other team and executing and really trying to sell these guys on who we are and what we've done and what we've done in the past. And I'm excited to be able to do that. I just don't have a real good grasp on the reality of what $20,000, how enticing that is. It won't be for everyone. It might not be for many.
You expect it to be basically college seniors you guys are going after?
We're going to go after college juniors. I don't know. I mean, you can make the argument. There's a few different arguments you can make where I think, college baseball, given the COVID conditions, is kind of up in the air as well. And there is some advantages to coming in with us in a smaller draft class. So, if you're one of 10 or 12 guys we end up signing instead of 30, that helps your cause. I do think we're going to be able to play some baseball this year. We just don't really know what. I hope that's the case. I mean, we have a couple seniors that we've identified as guys we'd want to go after, but we feel good about the players we have in our system. So there is a line of talent that it's going to have to achieve for us to make us sign guys. We're just not going to go randomly sign guys. There's no real need.
So how are you guys going to recruit guys? How's this going to look like? Is it going to be a Zoom, PowerPoint? Are you going to bring in Zach McKinstry to tell him, hey, you can be a late round pick, make it?
Yeah, all the above. We got it all planned out. I'm hoping. I haven't seen the final version of a kind of a recruiting video. We're going to put all the stops. Maybe Magic Johnson will call a few people. Dave Roberts. We're going to try to do our best here on whatever you can think of that's legal in the recruiting world.
Billy, what did you see in Beeter that his command got so much better as a starter in this kind of small sample size this year?
Yeah, I mean, to be totally honest, it surprised us. We saw him pitch a lot last year and thought we had him pegged as what kind of talent he was. And whether it was like the extended period away from his Tommy John surgery that he just started to get his feel back and his pitchability, but his tempo improved, his execution improved, his ability to kind of like refocus mentally and just like adjust quickly after making a bad pitch. Like it just all like really improved. And his curveball strike percentage went up, and he started to show a little bit of a change. It just became much more of a starter option than we ever thought it would be. The Texas Tech coaches say he's one of the strongest guys that they've ever had as a pitcher there. The athleticism stood out. We love his makeup and kind of engineering background. It just kind of all came together for us on a guy we really liked.
Billy, going back to the recruiting pitches for the undrafted guys, I mean, are you excited for that? You're kind of, what's your role going to be? Are you kind of a recruiting coordinator? I mean, what's this going to be like for you?
Yeah, kind of. We're going to try to figure out, the best strategy on each case. The way Major League Baseball is attempting to have the process is basically they're sending a kind of like an email to every person they have turned in the draft, and then the player can reply to opt out. And if they opt out, then we cannot contact them. So it's almost like a do not call list from telemarketing, I guess, if you want to call it. And if they don't opt out, then we're going to like make a list of guys we would prefer and order them out, and then attack. It'll probably be an organizational wide exercise when recruiting all bodies, all people, anyone who has an insight to these players to try to get the work. So it'll definitely be a all hands on deck type situation.
Are you excited for this just because it'll be a new experience?
A little bit. I guess if I knew who was going to say like, yes, give me a call, I would be like really excited. I'm just not sure, I think you guys know as well as I do, like $20,000 is just a lot different than what these players are used to getting late in the draft. And so I just don't know the reaction of how or what they're going to think.
When on Sunday can you guys start sort of making these calls or not?
Well, I don't know who it was. It was either Players Union or Major League Baseball, but someone was not very friendly to the West Coast teams because they made it 9 o'clock Eastern. So 6 a.m. we can technically start calling kids.
Sunday
morning.
Oh, Monday.
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday. Thank you.
Yeah.
What's the deadline you have to how long can you reach out to them?
I think basically until they restart school or go back to school.
Okay.
So you mentioned a little earlier that, the number of rounds, the draft picks, number of picks sort of affected how you guys went about it. If you don't want to get too specific in terms of you guys, but you think of the draft as a whole, do you think teams drafted differently? Do they go about it differently when in terms of, taking risks, going after maybe more college guys, maybe whatever the case may be?
Yeah, it was a mixed bag of how teams handle it, but I think more teams, I say, paid more money for the bigger price tags in the first 3 rounds, and they were using the savings in the 4th and 5th round to go do it. And I think that was a pretty general strategy that was used a lot. So I just think in the past we wouldn't, because you're trying to acquire more quantity of talent, you're not as likely to go all in on a few guys. Where this year teams were just going like, hey, we're use all our money for 3 guys or 2 guys, or and we'll save later, knowing that we probably, can execute that savings later.
Billy, given Vogel's speed, I mean, can he stick in center field in the majors, you think?
100%. I think it's one of his strengths. He's a really good defender now. I think naturally he'll get better, but his like overall reads, instincts, his Southern Cal experience. He's a very polished player. The Huntington Beach program is outstanding. They play all the top schools. His speed, we think, is going to last for a while and age well. So, 100%.
Are there any players that Marty Lamb liked that you didn't draft?
I don't know. I have to go back and ask him. He seems to just get anyone he wants.
What do you just turn the phone over to him and get out of his way?
Pretty much these days. I think we just kind of tell him, like, yeah, Marty, just take the first 2 or 3 picks, and then we'll do our best after.
I think I saw a little bit.
Isn't he a recruiting coordinator?
Maybe he should. He might only want players in his area though, so we have to expand his role a little bit. But we're gonna explore it.
I was saying that there was a Louisville position player taken today. I'm sure he was probably not too happy about that.
Yeah, we liked the player. We almost took him, so he was almost going to get another one. I think he started getting a little. I think he started feeling a little guilty, so he started telling us to take other players just since it was only 5 rounds.
Have you ever heard of a scout taking the top 2 players in 2 different drafts?
No, his run has been unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it because there is a portion of luck to this thing on that because there's so many players across the country and it has to line up with your pick and blah, blah, blah. So he's had an incredible run.
Billy, how many of these guys did you get to see in person, whether it was this abbreviated season or recently within the last year, so dating back to last summer?
Yeah, if you I guess if you go back to last summer, I think only 2. Now that you say it, yeah, only 2.
Which 2?
I saw Jake Vogel and Bobby Miller. Yeah.
Is that difficult I mean, we talked a little bit about last night, but is that difficult for you mentally? Because, high picks, you always want to have a little more, in-person experience.
It's unusual. It's an unusual feeling. I'll be honest. I would normally see, if we took the first 5 rounds, I'd probably see at least 4 out of 5, if not 5 out of 5. So it's unusual. Like it somehow feels acceptable and normal. I don't know if I just kind of got used to the Zoom COVID life now or quarantine life, but it feels normal somehow. And I trust our guys. Our staff's unbelievable. They did such a good job of not only explaining these players, but being thorough. We were able to kind of bring some player development guys in to get their opinions, which is sometimes we just don't have the time to do as much as we like. So in some ways we were able to like include more people in the organization to get a more thorough opinion.
Were your guys more vocal on the Zoom today?
They were. They got a little they started having fun, I think. So it was good to see. And it was still kind of awkward because we're doing all this stuff, in the stadium and trying to relay stuff, but it was hard. So they had fun. You could at least tell they had fun today. And I think we had 1 player from each region, which is nice. So every region at least got a player.
Did knowing that next year's draft is going to be shortened impact you at all this year?
No, I mean, I think next year is guaranteed for 20 rounds, I believe. So that feels like a lot this year. I mean, the talent is going to be absurd. I think the way this is all going to cycle through, and so we're just we're super excited about next year. I guess in some sense, there could be motivation where if you can't agree to a top 3 round player, then you get a pick back next year in a super strong class. So it probably gave us a little more comfort in knowing that, hey, if we can't sign the player, we get a really good pick next year and a really strong class.
Anything else for Billy? Cool. Thank you, Billy.
Awesome,
Thanks,
guys.
thanks,
Thank
Lon.
you.
Thanks, Billy.
Bye.
Billy.
Thanks, guys.